What would you do if every night you saw someone watching you from a house that's been abandoned for 15 years? Laura thought it was just shadows in the window. But when the figure left her notes, when it followed her into her dreams, she realized it wasn't watching the house at all. It was watching her. And it wanted one thing: to bring her into its family forever. It started the first week after Laura moved into Maple Street. The neighborhood looked perfect, quiet, tree-lined. All the houses standing neat and similar with their little porches and trimmed lawns. It was the kind of place she'd dreamed of when she left the chaos of the city behind. But on her second night, she noticed it. Across from her bedroom window, the house directly opposite looked different. Not wrong, not ruined. It just seemed empty. The lawn was wild, the paint faded. Yet when she looked up from her book, she saw someone standing in the second floor window. Just a silhouette, then motionless. The way the figure stood shoulders too high, head slightly tilted, made her pulse quicken. At first, she thought it was a trick of the shadows. She rubbed her eyes, leaned closer, and the figure remained. No light on inside, just the pale moon behind it. When she blinked, the figure was gone. Laura didn't sleep much that night. The next evening, it happened again. She'd just brushed her teeth and was about to close the curtains when she felt it, that prickling weight of being watched. She looked out. The same figure, same window, same frozen tilt of the head, but this time its hand was pressed to the glass. Her phone was in her hand before she realized it. She snapped a picture, zoomed in. The glass of her window reflected the glare, but yes, someone was there. A man, maybe. His features blurred but unmistakably human. Her neighbor, Mrs. Clark, was gardening the next morning when Laura walked out, still shaken. She tried to sound casual. "That house across from me, who lives there?" Mrs. Clark glanced up, face tightening. "Honey, that place has been empty for years. Bank owns it. No one set foot in there since the Crawfords moved out. 15 years ago, maybe more. Then who's in the window?" Laura asked before she could stop herself. Mrs. Clark's gardening gloves paused midair. She gave a nervous little laugh. "You don't want to be looking too hard at that place." And then she went back to her roses. That night, Laura waited. She sat in the dark with the lights off, curtains open, eyes fixed across the street. Midnight came. 12:30. Her eyelids drooped, and then she saw movement. The curtain across the way shifted, though no wind blew. The figure appeared again, closer this time, not just at the window. It leaned forward. She gasped and stumbled back, heart pounding. When she dared to look again, it was gone. 2 nights later, she heard the knocking. At first, she thought it was the pipes. A steady, hollow knock like wood on wood. Then she realized it was coming from her window. Tap, tap, tap. She froze in bed, staring at the glass, her curtains still open. Across the street, the dark house loomed. Its second-floor window was lit faintly by the moon. And in the reflection of her own window, in the corner of her eye, she thought she saw someone standing behind her. She spun around. The room was empty. The knocking stopped. The following day, she went to the police. She showed the officer her phone photo, though it was grainy. "Look, lady," the officer said, squinting. "That house is condemned. Nobody's living there." "You sure you weren't dreaming?" "I wasn't dreaming. I see him every night. Ma'am, if you think someone broke into that property, we'll send a patrol car. But I'm telling you, no one stays in there." That evening, 2 squad cars parked outside the house across the street. Laura watched from her porch as flashlights swept the yard, then the inside. The officers walked around for nearly half an hour. Finally, one came over. "Nothing," he said flatly. Dust, cobwebs, broken furniture. No footprints, no signs of anyone squatting. Place is empty, empty. Laura locked every door that night, but it didn't matter, because when she climbed into bed, the figure was already there. Not in the house across the street this time, no. In her own window's reflection, standing right behind her, watching with its head tilted the same unnatural way. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. Her body was frozen, heart hammering so hard she thought she might pass out. And then, as if sensing her fear, the reflection smiled. Lara didn't sleep. She kept her eyes squeezed shut until dawn, forcing herself not to look back at the window. When sunlight finally spilled across her bedroom, she turned, and of course there was nothing. Just her dresser, her curtains, the faint reflection of her own pale, exhausted face. She told herself she'd imagined it. Stress, fatigue, suggestion. But when she tried to leave the house that morning, she found something tucked under her front door mat, a small scrap of yellowed paper. On it, in smeared pencil, were 3 words, "I see you." Her breath hitched. She dropped the note, scanning the street, empty. The abandoned house sat still and silent, its windows like blind eyes staring back. By afternoon, she couldn't take it anymore. She crossed the road and climbed the creaking porch steps of the house. The front door was locked, but the side entrance had been forced long ago, boards splintered, handle broken. She stepped inside. The smell hit her first, mold, dust, something rotten lingering in the air. The floor groaned under her weight. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing cracked plaster beneath. Her flashlight beam danced across overturned furniture, broken glass, a child's shoe lying by itself in the corner. "Hello?" she whispered, though she hated herself for saying it. Her voice echoed too loud in the emptiness. Upstairs, the window where the figure always stood was ajar. She climbed slowly, the staircase sagging beneath each step. At the top, the air grew colder, as though the house itself breathed. She pushed open the bedroom door and froze. In the corner, against the far wall, lay a mattress stained dark with age. Beside it, neatly arranged, were small piles of bones, bird bones maybe, squirrels. They were lined up as if someone had placed them deliberately in order of size. And scrawled across the wall in uneven black letters, "Keep watching." Lara stumbled back, her breath ragged. Something shifted behind her. A creak, deliberate, like weight pressing on the floorboards. She spun, no one there. Just the hallway stretching into shadow. She fled. Back at her own house, she bolted the door and sat shaking on the kitchen floor. If someone was squatting there, they weren't just hiding, they were taunting her, watching her. But how could they disappear whenever the police came? That night, the tapping returned. Louder now, insistent. She pulled the curtains tight, refusing to look. But then came the whisper. Faint at first, like wind sneaking through a crack. Then clearer. "Lavra," she gasped, covering her ears. Her name drawn out, hissed, coaxing. The whisper wasn't from outside. It was behind her, inside her room. She turned on every light. She didn't sleep. By morning, her nerves were shredded. She called her sister, begging her to come stay the weekend. Megan agreed, half worried, half amused. "You've always had the worst imagination," she said over the phone, "but fine. I'll bring wine and prove your ghost is just bad plumbing." That evening, Megan arrived, loud and reassuring, dropping her bags in the guest room. The sisters stayed up late, laughing nervously, drinking until Lara felt almost normal again. Around midnight, Megan went to the bathroom. Lara dozed on the couch. Then she heard her sister scream. Lara bolted upstairs. Megan stood rigid in front of the bedroom window, trembling. "There," she stammered. "There's someone across the street." Laura's heart plummeted. She knew what Megan meant before she even looked, but she did look. And there it was again. The figure in the window, thin, head tilted, hand pressed to the glass. Only this time Lara realized something new. The figure wasn't looking out. It was facing inward, staring into the dark house as though watching something inside. "Don't move," Lara whispered. Megan shook her head. This isn't real. It can't be. The figure raised its hand, slowly, deliberately, as if waving. Laura yanked the curtain shut. Neither of them slept that night. They lay awake, the house creaking, shadows shifting. At one point, Laura thought she heard footsteps pacing in the hallway. At another, she swore she felt the mattress sink beside her as though someone invisible had sat down. By dawn, Megan insisted they leave. You're moving out, Laura. I don't care if you lose the deposit, this place isn't right. Laura wanted to agree. She wanted to pack and run. But something deep down told her it wouldn't matter. That figure, it wasn't tied to the house across the street. It was tied to her. She found another note later that morning, slipped under the door just like the last one. Only this time, the handwriting was clearer. I'm inside now. Laura sat at the kitchen table, staring at the note with her hands trembling. I'm inside now. The words burned into her skull. Megan had already started stuffing clothes back into her bag, muttering, "We're getting a hotel. Laura, tonight." But Laura couldn't shake the thought. If it was really inside, would running help? She didn't tell Megan about the bones she'd seen in the abandoned house, or the writing on the wall. Something about it felt dangerous, like saying it aloud would make it more real. By evening, Megan tried to lighten the mood with a movie, but every sound in the house made them flinch. The heater clicking, branches scraping the windows, even the hum of the fridge. They both jumped when a loud thump echoed from upstairs. Laura froze. That's the guest room, she whispered. Megan grabbed her phone flashlight, determination masking fear. No more games. If someone's in this house, we're catching them. They crept upstairs together, each step heavier than the last. The guest room door was slightly open. Megan shoved it wide, empty. Just her suitcase on the bed, the curtains drawn tight. Then the closet door rattled. Megan lunged forward and yanked it open. Nothing. They both exhaled, shaky laughter bubbling out of Megan. God, I almost had a heart attack. But Laura's relief evaporated when she saw the suitcase. It was open now, and inside, nestled between Megan's folded shirts, lay another scrap of yellow paper. She picked it up with numb fingers. Don't let her leave. Megan frowned. What is that? Laura crumpled it quickly. Nothing. Just some sick prank, but she couldn't hide the tears in her eyes. That night, Megan insisted on keeping every light on. They both dozed on the couch, afraid to separate. Around 3 a.m., Laura jolted awake to a sound. A steady creak, slow and deliberate, from the stairs. Someone was coming down. She shook Megan awake, finger pressed to her lips. Together, they stared at the staircase. A figure appeared. Not a shadow this time, a man. He was tall, gaunt, his skin ashen pale. His clothes looked decades out of style-worn slacks, a suspender strap hanging loose. His head tilted the same unnatural way as the silhouette had in the window. He didn't look at them. Instead, he walked past the couch, slow, dragging one foot slightly, and stopped at the front door. He raised his hand, pressed it against the wood like he was listening for something on the other side. Then, just as slowly, he turned his head toward them. His face was wrong. Too long, his eyes dark and sunken, his mouth stretched in a smile that seemed carved rather than natural. Laura grabbed Megan's hand. But before either of them could scream, the man opened his mouth and let out a sound like a whisper, tangled with a laugh, low, breathy, endless. The room grew icy. Then he was gone. Not vanished in smoke, not dissolved. Just gone, as though they'd blinked and he'd never been there. Megan sobbed, pulling at Laura's arm. We're leaving. Now. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. They ran to the car, throwing bags into the trunk. Laura's hands shook so badly she dropped the keys twice before starting the engine. Tires screeched as they sped down Maple Street. It wasn't until they reached the highway that Laura dared to breathe. Megan clutched the dashboard, pale and trembling. What the hell was that? Laura shook her head. I don't know. I don't want to know. They drove for nearly an hour before stopping at a roadside motel. The neon sign buzzed overhead as they checked in, barely speaking. Inside the stale-smelling room, they collapsed on separate beds, too drained to do anything but lie in silence. Lavra thought maybe, just maybe, they were safe, until she went to the bathroom to wash her face. She looked up into the mirror and nearly screamed. For a second, only a second, she didn't see her own reflection. She saw him, standing where she should be, head tilted, grinning wide. His hand lifted, not in a wave, but as if pressing against the inside of the glass. She staggered back. The mirror showed only her again, pale and wide-eyed. But on the fogged surface, where her breath had touched the glass, 3 words were written as if traced by a finger. Too late, Lara. Lara didn't sleep in the motel. Neither did Megan. Every creak of the walls, every car passing outside, every whisper of wind against the window made them flinch. By dawn, Megan looked hollow-eyed, drained. We need answers, Lavra whispered. If we just keep running, it'll follow us. It's not the house, it's me. Megan shot her a look. Don't say that. Don't you dare. But deep down, Lavra knew it. The figure hadn't stayed in Maple Street. It had come with her. It was inside the mirror, the notes, the walls of her mind. She opened her laptop, desperate. Newspaper archives, old records, anything connected to that abandoned house. Hours crawled by until she found it. Crawford family tragedy, minus 1,956. The article described a father, Henry Crawford, who locked his wife and daughter inside their home before vanishing. Neighbors claimed they saw him standing at the upstairs window for weeks after, long after police declared the family dead. No body was ever recovered. The house was left to rot. Laura felt her stomach twist. The man she'd seen, the tilted head, the grin that had to be him. Lavra, Megan whispered. She was staring at the motel window. The curtains were drawn, but a shadow stretched across the fabric. Tall, motionless, Laura's throat tightened. Slowly, she pulled the curtains open. Nothing, just the parking lot. But taped to the outside of the glass was another yellow scrap. The same faint, smudged handwriting. Bring her back. Megan's face drained of color. What does that mean? Lavra didn't answer. She knew. Somehow, Henry Crawford wasn't just a ghost. He wanted something, someone, and if he couldn't get his family back, maybe he was trying to make a new one. That night, Megan finally fell into a shallow, uneasy sleep. Lavra lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening. And then she heard it, the soft creak of footsteps on the motel carpet, slow, dragging, coming closer. She turned her head. Henry Crawford was standing at the foot of Megan's bed. Lara couldn't scream, couldn't move. His hand hovered just above Megan's chest, fingers twitching like he was about to pluck something from her. His grin widened, teeth too sharp, too many. His eyes glowed faintly, a sickly gray. No, Lara whispered, finally breaking her paralysis. She stumbled from bed, shoving herself between them. Take me, not her. The figure tilted its head. That awful jerking tilt. Then he leaned forward, so close Lara felt his cold breath. You, already mine, he rasped. Megan woke with a scream. The figure vanished. They didn't wait for morning. They packed and drove straight back to Maple Street, Laura's desperation overriding fear. She had to know. She had to end it. The abandoned house loomed ahead, darker than ever. They crept inside, the floor groaning under their weight. Lara led them to the upstairs bedroom, her flashlight shaking. The piles of animal bones were gone. In their place were smaller bones, human. Laura's stomach lurched. A child's ribcage, tiny finger bones lined up neatly. And on the wall, new words smeared in black. Family stays. The air grew suffocatingly cold. Shadows stretched unnaturally long across the floor. Megan clutched Laura's arm. We need to get out, but the door slammed shut. From the corner, Henry emerged. Not just shadow, now flesh, bone, and something in between. His mouth stretched wide in that endless smile, head tilted. His eyes locked on Lavra. "You watched," he whispered. "You let me in." Laura's flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed the room. The only thing visible were those glowing eyes. Megan screamed. Something yanked her into the dark. Lara lunged, catching her sister's hand, pulling with all her strength. For a moment, she felt Megan slipping away, fingers pried loose by something impossibly strong. Then silence. The weight vanished. The room was empty. Lara sobbed, her sister gone. The police never found Megan. They never believed Laura's story. Officially, Megan disappeared, and Lavra was left behind alone, broken. Weeks later, Laura sat in her bedroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her face looked older, drained, her eyes dark from sleepless nights. She leaned closer. And then she saw it. Her reflection tilted its head, just slightly, just enough, and smiled. On the inside of the glass, faintly written, were words that hadn't been there a moment before. "Family stays." Laura's lips trembled. Her reflection's lips didn't, and then the reflection raised its hand and began to tap on the glass.